Hi and welcome back to Mark Deeks Music. This week's video is 6 habits you shouldn't get into when you're beginning to learn to play piano. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to give the channel a subscribe and you'll get the videos sent to you straight away every week. If you're watching on Facebook, give the page a like and I'll try and help you become a piano legend. Before the end of this video, I'm going to give you one tip that's going to really unlock your piano playing when you're first setting out on the journey. So let's get started. Number 1, don't think that playing the piano for longer each time is better. Longer is not better when you're first learning. This is a particular problem with adults who are learning to play the piano. They think they need to sit down for an hour at night and they'll magically get better because, well, they're putting an hour into it every night. You're not used to it. It's a new thing. It's a new skill. The physical movements are difficult. The physical movements are different to pretty much anything else you do in your everyday life. So the first tip is shorter is better. Don't think that longer is going to make you a piano legend straight away. Sit down and play the piano for 5 minutes. Sit down and play the piano for 10 minutes if you must. But don't sit and play for an hour. You're not going to get better. You're looking for short bursts. Now, if you can get more than one burst in the same day, great. If you can do it 5 days a week, get these short bursts in, great. But that's way better than sitting down for an hour at a time and thinking you're going to instantly be able to play the piano. So try and associate or attach the 5-minute slots with something else you know you're going to do anyway. So 5 minutes after you brush your teeth in the morning. 5 minutes as soon as you come in from work. As soon as you walk in the house, you're going to sit down for 5 minutes and do some exercises or whatever it is you're trying to do. 5 minutes before you go to bed. These little 5 and 10 minute bursts are going to make you a much better piano player, much quicker than sitting down for 1 or even 2 hours once or twice a week and thinking that's going to work. It isn't. Don't get into that habit. 5 minutes at a time, 10 minutes max, and that'll make you a much better piano player, a much quicker speed. Habit number 2, don't let your fingers fly. What I mean by that is this. When people are first starting to learn to play the piano, I see time and time again people doing this kind of thing. Can you see? As they're pressing notes down on the piano, the other fingers are flying in the air. That's a really bad habit to get into. Avoid that. You want all of the fingers as close as you can to the keys all the time. So whichever note I'm pressing on the piano at once, all of the keys have a finger near to them. Doesn't matter if I'm doing it over a big stretch or whether I'm doing notes that are next to each other. All of the fingers should be as close to the keys as possible. Why? Because I want to minimize the gaps that are in my movement. I want to streamline that process as much as I can so that when I come to play faster, when I'm more experienced, my fingers are right next to the keys. If they're used to having all this time to think about it, you're never going to get to play fast piano. It also involves this physical movement. It just slows down the process because your brain engages a finger, but it's got this distance to travel before it actually hits a key. So number 2 of the habits to avoid when you're beginning to play piano, don't let your fingers fly in the air. Habit number 3 to avoid when you're starting to play piano. When people learn which finger number is referred to as which on the piano, and I say that the thumb is number 1, and your index finger number 2, middle finger number 3, ring finger number 4, and little finger number 5, beginners tend to assume that that's the case for the left hand as well, and it's not. So don't get into the habit of thinking that 1 to 5 is left to right. It isn't. It's thumb to little finger on both hands. So on my left hand, if I put my little finger on a C and have my right hand thumb on a C, I've got number 1 in my right hand and number 5 in my left hand. So to play C up to G on my left hand is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. On my right hand, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's your thumb that's number 1 on both hands. It's not left to right. So don't get into that habit. Bad habit number 4 to avoid when you're beginning to start to play piano. There's a video elsewhere on this channel called The Pianist's Sleight of Hand. If you haven't seen that video, I'd check that out as well after you've watched this one. In that video, I talk about how this trick of being able to bring your thumb underneath the rest of your hand suddenly unlocks the way that you can move around the whole piano. But when you're starting to learn to play piano, I commonly see people try and do it from their little finger. They try and bring their thumb underneath their little finger to play the next note. Never, ever, ever do that. If you're doing a correct fingering in piano playing, you will never need to bring your thumb underneath your little finger and get to the next note. It's almost impossible to do that no matter how big your hands are. We do it from 3, bring the thumb underneath. We do it from 4, bring the thumb underneath. We sometimes do it from 2 as well, but we never ever do it from 5. So that's number 4. Don't avoid. So that's number 4 of the habits not to get into when you're beginning piano. Don't try and bring your thumb underneath number 5, your little finger. Okay, we're nearly there. I hope this is helping you out. Habit number 5 to avoid. Don't drop your wrist. What do I mean by that? When beginners are learning to play, it's really sort of almost like a subconscious reaction. They get tired and their wrists start to drop down because they're not used to holding their arms out in this kind of, it becomes natural position when you're used to playing the piano, but when you're not used to playing the piano, holding your arms out in this kind of horizontal straight line isn't a really natural position. So when people start pressing notes down on the piano, you can see that their wrist starts to drop. And it's just like this slouch starts to happen. That is a super limiting way to start playing the piano, because if you get into that habit early on, you're going to really impair the movement of your fingers around the piano. Because bringing my thumb underneath a finger when the wrist is slouched is much harder work than if I have my wrist lifted up and I can bring my thumb underneath like that. So habit number 5 to avoid, don't let your wrists drop down lower than the height of the white keys. Okay, habit number 6, and I promised you a real secret to unlock your piano playing going forward when you're first setting out on this journey. And this habit is nothing to do with a physical technique. It's all a psychological, motivational thing. Habit number 6, don't forget why you started playing piano. Now that might sound like a really airy-fairy thing to say. It's really psychological, motivational speaking, and it is a bit of that. And this is why. I see time and time again, and this is really the case with adult learners. Adults forget why they first sat down at the piano. And I'm a massive fan when trying to teach people to play piano of remembering the psychological context of why you're doing it. And what I mean by that is this. If you first sat down at the piano because you wanted to unwind after work, you want a little hobby for yourself, maybe you've retired and it's something you've always wanted to do, it's just purely your personal enjoyment, it's a hobby, then the way that you practice piano should be totally different than if you're sat at the piano because you want to become a professional piano player. If you want to become a professional piano player, you're going to practice harder, for longer, perhaps you're going to be a bit more precise in terms of certain technique aspects, you're going to be more punishing on yourself in terms of the standards that you're demanding of yourself. But if you're an adult who just wants to chill out after work and you've got a piano sat in the house or a keyboard sat in the house and you're like, this is just something I want to do purely for enjoyment, then that sets a totally different context and a totally different set of boundaries for why you're sat at the piano and how long you should sit at the piano and the kind of things you should practice and how hard you should be on yourself if something's not going well. This is not an easy instrument to master and it takes time, but allow yourself to enjoy that journey. If you can sit at the piano and do this, with a good technique, your hand's in a good shape, it's quite a consistent sound, it's quite smooth, there's kind of a pulse to it, that's great. That is something that you couldn't do once. And allow yourself to acknowledge every single little victory as you go. Habit number 6, don't get into the habit of beating yourself up if this is too hard or something isn't going well, or you're not achieving what you want to achieve. You will, it just takes time. Allow yourself to enjoy the victories as you go, unless you want to be a pro, you want to be a classical piano player who tours the world as a soloist. Now you've got a different set of rules. But if that's not you and you want to do it for fun, don't give yourself too hard a time. There's more videos like this every single week here on this channel. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next week.